Hello and welcome to Good Investing. I'm Rachel Grunn.
And I'm Andrea Cwik.
And this week we have a guest. And we are excited to present her to you because it's all about money. And it's a topic not a lot of people want to talk about because money can be boring, it can be embarrassing, it can be, what can money be?
There could be,
Exciting.
some fear around it.
Fear. I know that there was a time in my life where I did not open my Wells Fargo app because I was too afraid to look at it. Which doesn't mean it's like that doesn't just because you're too afraid to look at your bank account doesn't mean it's not there, you know.
Right.
So I think it's scary in the beginning to open up your finances, especially to another person.
Yeah.
But in the end goal could be your hair looks amazing. Side note. Your hair looks fantastic.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you. And so she talks, she gives us strategies about money,
Management.
money management.
Money management.
Yes. So that was good.
Practical, like applicable tips.
I liked that.
And
yeah.
actually, it did convict me in buying business as well. I'm the lump sum. I'm spoiling it, but I'm the lump sum person, and I need to be more sophisticated about opening up different bank accounts for different things.
Yeah, I am. We do have some different bank accounts, but it's very hard for me to keep them straight, and I just want to use one credit card. But I'm good at using two, but like more than that, oh, it's just so painful.
Yeah. But this is the thing.
Keeping it all straight. Oh my gosh.
You gotta sit down and just do it. So.
But you do know that I'm not like the most organized person. You're that person.
But
we make a whole person together. We established that the other day.
We complement and complete each other.
Like literally, we make an entire person, like a full person. I am half a person, and you're half a person.
I'm half a person.
I have the heart. No,
and I have a brain.
Wait, I have the other half of the brain though too.
Yeah, you got the left side. I got the right side. Oh my gosh, we do love each other.
Is the left the math one? Because I'm not the math one.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know.
I'm not the math.
Oh my gosh, let's introduce our guest. No one cares. I do love you though, Andrea.
I love you too. Yeah.
So Sarah Young is a financial strategist for business owners, and she's also the host of the Profit and Prosper podcast. She's the founder of Young and Co., which is a virtual CFO and tax agency that helps driven, service-based, and online business owners increase profits, generate wealth, and keep more of their money. We also discussed that she does work with real estate investors as well. After finding that working with small business owners was far more fulfilling than working for the big four and large companies, Sarah committed herself and her business to helping business owners be wealthier and well. When she's not helping clients maximize their profit to create more confidence and stability in their businesses, you can likely find her hanging out with her son and husband. Yeah, that's just scratching the surface. You guys are in for an awesome episode.
It was a great episode.
Without further ado, let's meet Sarah Young.
Hello, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining us on GoodGood Investing. We are so excited to talk to you.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. So we're just going to dive right in because I want to know all about Sarah Young. I want to know where you come from, just based on, what you of course, we had a little podcast questionnaire that you filled out, and you and I have a very similar backstory. So I want to hear from you first. I'm not going to give any spoilers. I'm not going to jump ahead, but I want to hear all about you and kind of where you got to where you are today.
Yeah. Okay. I'll try to do the short version. So I started actually when I graduated college. I don't think I put this in my questionnaire, but I was a business major and it was the height of the Great Recession. And I was like, there's no good jobs. I don't want to go do some like bank teller job somewhere because that was basically all that I could find. And so I did Teach for America for 2 years, which like changed my life. I taught high school math. And I went from this like really shy, reserved little Sarah to I can run a classroom of 35 teenagers who don't want to listen to me talk about algebra. So that was really fun. Then I went back to get my master's in accounting, and I worked at Deloitte for about 4 years doing audits. Then went into the corporate world and was climbing up the corporate ladder. And through a couple of different things, I realized like I don't love the corporate world. It's just not fulfilling at all. I really think that working with business owners, and especially women business owners, no shade to my men clients, I just am really into women making more money. And I found that that was just way more fun and I enjoyed it more. And so I started my business in late 2018 on the side. I actually did a lot of free work at first. And then I'd side hustled all of 2019, was ready to leave. And then I got promoted at my job, as it happens when you start side hustles. Like sometimes your vibe raises and you get promoted at your job. So I got promoted twice. Then I got pregnant and I was like, I can't leave this job while I have this maternity leave coming up. And my son was born 2 weeks before everything shut down for COVID on March 1st, 2020. And then I still was like, am I crazy to quit my job now? Is this the best time to go full steam ahead in my business? And I was like, you know what? Like, screw it. We're going to give it a go. Why not? And so I did. I rolled off my full-time job in 2020 and we have pretty quickly grown, revenue-wise, team-wise. And I now have even more things that I have like very recently started doing, basically a whole second business. So all fun stuff.
I love that. Can you tell us a little bit about your multiple businesses that you have?
Yeah. So my main business is Young & Co. It is a virtual CFO and tax firm, not set up like the traditional accounting firms because I started doing that. I'm a CPA. And so when I first started, I was like, what do CPAs do in business? We do bookkeeping and tax prep and all of those check the box things. And I did that for a little while. And I realized for business owners, especially, it's just not enough. And it's also not like, I'm so good at the big picture strategy stuff that I felt like I needed to do more. So we offer CFO and strategic tax services. And so everything is really designed to help business owners make more money and save and invest more money as a CFO and then as a tax strategist and my team too. Like obviously I've got people who help me on the tax side and the accounting side. So we kind of handle all of that for business owners. And then more recently, I realized, I've actually had a coaching program for a little while. Think like business coaching, but niched into like money stuff. I've actually been toying with that for a little while and I've had small groups in there. And I recently have just decided like, I'm going to have a whole second business, y'all. I don't have a name. I don't have branding. I don't have a website. I don't care. I'm just going with it. Maybe by the time this episode comes out, I'll have a fully fleshed out business. But anyways, I've recently started doing that and, just more doing like coaching specifically for female business owners to, again, like focus on how do you make more money in your business? And then secondarily, or not secondarily, but like ultimately to take you to how do you take that money and then be able to save and invest it to be a millionaire.
Yeah, I love that.
Love that.
So we are also like very into economies of scale and all about scaling our business, scaling, our portfolio, investment portfolios, because it just gets easier when you scale, right? You're not having to do everything. You're able to delegate more. So I want to know from you, how do people actually scale their business and their team without skipping out on their paycheck?
Yeah. So I feel like, I'm sure y'all see it too. I feel like so many people don't pay themselves hardly at all to begin with. And then you think that in order to scale your business, you have to go like 100% in and like don't ever take a paycheck out and like blah, blah, blah. I think that there's definitely an element of like being smart of reinvesting some of your profit, but I also really firmly believe that it's important to take care of yourself. I feel personally like I'm the main breadwinner in my household right now. And I feel personally like when we have times where like if things are tight personally, financially, that very much carries over into my business and it impacts my ability to show up and like put my face on Instagram and have the good energy that brings people to me and make sales and to lead my team and to do all those things. And so I think that it's really important to balance both. And so I think there's, a few crucial elements. I sort of break it down into 3 phases as we're thinking about how do we make more money. First, I think we have to do the really hard work of figuring out why you are not making enough money, which I think is one of the hardest things for people to do because people assign so much emotion to money and to like looking at your financials. And if you're not as like profitable or successful, if your revenue is not where you want it to be, then you feel like you're a personal failure, right? And that is not true. Like money financials, like it's just data. It's just like numbers on the page that you use to make decisions. And so I think we first and foremost have to figure out like, why are you not making money now? Typically, at a really high, like really fast simplified level, I find that that is either driven to people's pricing and offer structure not being correct, to people who either overspend on things that don't actually fix the problems that they have in their business, or maybe even more common for women especially is being afraid to invest in their business to grow because they think they have to like bootstrap it all, which like is a phrase that drives me absolutely bonkers. So spending, I would say your mindset and even like the energy that you bring is really, really crucial. One of the first things that a lot of people say to me when they first meet me is like, oh, I love to listen to your stuff, but I'm so bad at money. Like, I'm not good at money stuff. I'm not good at numbers. I'm like, you know what? The more you say that, the more you are going to continue to be crappy at number stuff. And so I think all the layers that come with your money mindset, and like just lately I've been doing a lot of work on my own like nervous system and all this stuff. I'm a little bit woo. And I think that it is like so beneficial to helping me do the hard things in my business. And then the fourth would probably be time management and your boundaries around what you're doing. I feel like people a lot of times like spend so much time in their business doing things that aren't actually the things that help them scale. So I think that's like the biggest piece to start, is just figuring out like what is it so that we can fix it. And some of that has to do with looking at your numbers. I know you guys have had podcasts about like know your numbers and whatnot, so I won't go into all of that, but looking at your financials and looking at the way you spend your time to say like, what do I need to fix? Then we put into place a plan. And so, I'll use a somewhat dirty word for some people. Using a forecast, I think, is really crucial. The way that I do it, I try to keep it simple and not have like a massive spreadsheet because I feel like that's really hard for people. But at a high level, I want to know, how much money do you need to spend just to make your business run? What are the investments that you need to make, whether that's hiring someone, for example, or maybe you need to get a consultant in, or maybe you need to invest in like software or equipment or like any of those things. Like, what are the outflows that you have to cover? Then we're going to ask, how much revenue do you need to have coming in to make the numbers work? And then we're going to figure out, how much revenue do you currently have in the pipeline? How much do you bring in on a regular basis, depending on the business model? And then what's the gap there? And then we back into, again, like pricing and offer structure. How can we make that easier? I feel like people feel like to scale your business is just going to take like more sales, right? Like I just have to, if I want to double my revenue, I have to bring on double the clients. And I feel like that may or may not actually be true, especially if you really dive in and look at the offers that you have and the way that you're pricing and the way that you're delivering those offers. I think a lot of times you can actually find ways to get there a lot easier, right? If you structure the right way. And then the last piece is like managing your money. This is another area where people like shy away from because they feel like it's going to be really overwhelming. And so I think like it's important to know how to manage your money. And I don't mean just like pull up your banking app on your phone every morning and check the balance and make sure that you have enough money for the day. Or if you don't have enough money, like go out and hustle and make some more sales. Like that's not money management, because people forget that you have like this auto draft coming up. You forget about your credit card payment or whatever, right? Like this is not money management. And so what I mean by that is just understanding, cash flow. And I don't want to use like jargon or anything, right? But we want to understand like the ins and outs of your business. We want to understand like how your banking works, right? Like being able to forecast out your cash flow. And I think that's a lot easier than people realize it is, right? Like it doesn't have to be crazy overwhelming to do that. You have to understand like what are the ins that are coming, what are the outflows that are coming, because I have never met a successful CEO who scales their business who does not have those skills to understand those things. So I think we have to learn the money management stuff in order to be able to scale. So hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, for sure. Do
It
you
did, yeah.
do you have any strategies for that money management part of it?
Yeah. So I think that one is banking. That's probably the biggest one. So I I'll be honest, I don't love profit first. Everybody reads profit first. I have never met a person who has attempted to implement profit first who actually does it successfully and loves it and the percentages work. And I'm sure there's people out there, right? But like, I've just never met anybody who can manage it on their own because they say you need something like 7 bank accounts, which is just overwhelming for most people. And then what I find it doesn't take into account is if you stick to these sort of rigid percentages, as you're scaling your business, you're going to have times when you need to make investments into things. You're going to have the time when you like hire a new person, your percentage of your expenses is going to increase until your revenue catches up, right? And so I think what I like to do instead, I think a bank account system is really important because having like one account with all of your cash piled up in it does not help anybody. Um, I have clients who either like they go one way where they see money and they just spend it because they think they have it, right? They're doing the bank balance method of money management. Or I have other ones who, like one of my clients recently, we had a one-on-one and she was newer and she came in, she had like 125 grand in her checking account. She doesn't have payroll, like she doesn't have a huge team, any huge expenses. And I was like, okay, we've got to like understand what this money is for. So I like to have a bank account system at a high level. Like, I like to have an income account. I like to have an expense account. Some people like to have a payroll account that I would put, if you have substantial team payroll, I would also put your owner payroll in that same payroll bucket because at that point you're probably an S Corp. You probably have a W-2 salary. That one's optional. It depends on the person. I like to have a tax account and I like to have a savings account. And at a minimum, in that expense account, I want to have funded the next 30 days of my expenses. And so that's where you need to know, like I said, to be able to forecast out, like, what are the things you're going to spend on? What's your payroll cost? I like to put all of my other expenses that I can on my business credit card. And so I know, well, what's my business credit card? Because I pay it in full every month. And so, like, projecting this is how much money I need in the month of June. So at the end of May, I'm like, okay, I need 30 grand for June. I'm going to put 30 grand in the account, right? And then in the savings account, I like to have at least another 1 to 2 months of cushion built up. I think depending on the business model, and it really depends, I think, on your sales cycle. So if your sales cycle is really long, like I've got clients who have corporate clients, they're like consultants, and they could look up today and say, I want to bring in a new client, and it could take 6 to 12 months to actually see that cash in their account, right? Other clients, they could look up tomorrow and they could have a deposit coming in. And so in those cases, I would say you're okay with less. In other cases, you need more. But I think having that cushion there is really important to help you manage the ins and outs. And then also, like, if you ever need money, if you're like, hey, I want to hire somebody or I want to invest in this or that thing, like, you have cash, you don't have to go scrounging for it or take on debt, right?
So essentially, I mean, I actually love this because I think a lot of people believe that you have to reach a certain level, like you said, of profitability before you can bring on sophistication. But maybe there's an argument to be made that the profitability might come from the sophistication. So
Yeah.
it's like building those systems, maybe before you even think you're ready for them, could help to scale scale your business. But I also have a follow-up question for you, because this has been so much awesome information, but also opened up a few extra questions. So whenever it comes to you sitting down with a client, are you bringing ideas for them to implement in their business finances and then kind of saying, I did, like, it's all set up, like, go for it? Or is your relationship with your clients ongoing?
So it depends. And before I forget, you said setting up those things in advance can help with the profitability. I do think that you are correct. I think that a lot of this money stuff comes down to having habits, right? Like having money habits. And that's something I work with, like multi 7, 8 figure entrepreneurs who have real estate portfolios, other business portfolios. Like, why can't we go ahead and do the things that they're doing now to help
Yeah,
us get there faster? So 100%
exactly.
to that. So when I come to a client, I mean, it depends, right? Like in our agency, we have some projects and we have some ongoing work. It just kind of depends on what the client needs. We try to, like, what we do tends to follow that same sort of pathway that I laid out. It's just like what specifically, sometimes they need more in the first part and less of the next part. So I tend to view my role as a CFO. And even in my like coaching stuff that I do, coaching, mentoring, I don't view my role as like, I'm here to tell you what to do. And some people really hate it when I don't tell them what to do, because I think that especially as women, I feel like we give a lot of our authority away to make those decisions because we weren't trained to make those decisions. And so I want my clients, all of my clients, to feel like I'm the CEO of my business. I'm the one who makes the decisions. What I view my role as is the one who shows the possibilities, right? Of like, you want to do this. Let me help you figure out how to get there and what steps you might need to take and how the money could work to get you there, right? But ultimately, I want you to be the one like to make the decision.
Yes. Teach a man to fish versus give him a fish, right?
Yeah.
That's
So
great.
good.
So I know that your path to success where you are today has not been like linear. None of ours has. Did you want to talk a little bit about where you found yourself at 26 years old?
So you guys had this in your questionnaire, and I was like, oh, we're going to go there. So
Let's go.
yeah. Well, so like, you know, this is something like we don't often talk about the times that we fail, and it has taken me a lot of work to be able to like talk about this. But yeah, so when I was 26, I had just gotten divorced and I had $55,000 in debt and I had like $700 in cash in my bank account. And I was just like in one of those places where I was like, you know what? I'm like tired of doing this. I started, as many of us maybe do, I started dating this guy. Like I talked about teaching, right? I came in, we started dating when I was in that little Sarah mode of like, I have no confidence. I'm not popular. I'm not athletic. Like, I don't know how to fix my hair. You know, I was like that nerdy kid in school and like, oh my God, someone's paying attention to me. We dated through college and then got married right after college. And then I realized by the time I was 26, it dawned on me like I'm in a relationship with somebody who is emotionally and mentally abusive. And it was getting to be borderline where I thought like it's about to get physical. And I said, like, I'm done. At that point, I had done my 2 years in teaching. And like, I really credit that with like opening me up to being able to do a lot of hard things. So I said, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to take we can go like high level into why we had 55K in debt. I actually didn't have student loans. I got full scholarships to college because nerd, right? In a good way. But then after graduating, you know, I was on a teacher salary. He had no income. Then I went back to get my master's degree. And so through all of that, like me just trying to make ends meet, like we ended up with like credit cards. I was doing the credit card balance transfer shuffle all the time. Um, and then, you know, I took on some student loans during my master's program, not to pay for the tuition, interestingly, but to pay my living expenses because we had no money coming in. Um, and so we ended up with like $55,000 in debt. I remember I was studying for the CPA exams, which are like pretty hard. I had a part-time job working at Barnes and Noble, like right down the street from my house. And I was also tutoring college kids in math at the same time and like doing my coursework all at the same time. And like, I hope he never listens to this podcast. You know what? It's great. If he does, it's fine. But like, he was at home, like smoking weed and playing video games all day. And so I'm like, what am I doing? Right? Like, who am I? And so, yeah, I left. And
Good for
then
you.
at the time I did, I was in my first year, I think, at Deloitte. And so I had my whopping pay increase from like 32K as a teacher, which I'm sure, you know, 10 plus years later, it's actually, was it 12 years ago I was a teacher? I'm sure the salaries are the same, which is
Yeah,
like
for
a whole
sure.
other thing. I think I made like 50 grand as my first year at Deloitte back in 2012, I think was when I started. Um, and so I left. I like slowly started paying it off. One of the things, I actually have a whole podcast episode. I talk about this in detail. But I ended up reaching out to the credit union. My parents were members of a credit union and had got me an account. And so I had the in there. And I went to them. I said, I need a debt consolidation, like personal loan. Can you help me? And they said yes. And basically consolidated all the credit cards into one payment and closed all of those and then just slowly paid it down over time. And then eventually after the divorce, this is going to be crazy to say. It was like I met my now husband about a year and a half after that, after I left, which is some people might be really fast, but I think I was like mentally just like so disconnected the last part of that. Like I don't count. Anyways, we moved in together pretty fast, and that helped a lot because I was like, my rent was less. And so I paid it off in, what was it? 2015, 2016, I think I fully paid it off. And so I tell that story. I think it's important for a couple of reasons. Like, obviously, one, look at me now. Like, I've got over $1 million in net worth, which I'm happy to say.
Yay.
I'm good. I'm quote unquote good at money stuff. And yet I still had all of those things. And so it's not, I was a numbers person, right? And I still had all of that. And so when women come to me and say, like, I'm not a numbers person, like, it doesn't matter. Like, we're going to figure this out. It's possible. And the other piece I think is that, through like you keep yourself in these relationships where like people, you have to stay small. I was trying to stay small. I was trying to stay quiet, like not rock the boat. Don't do things that would like upset the partner. Right. And so that kept me like from doing a lot of things I wanted to do. And so I try now to like, I honestly still like have to remind myself to not stay small, even today, because it was like such like ground into me at this like pretty young age to do that. And so, here I am now.
Thank you so much for sharing that story. I so appreciate your vulnerability. No one talks about this stuff, but it just makes you all the more trustworthy for clients that come to you because finances can be embarrassing and vulnerable. And for someone to come to you and be like, absolutely no judgment. We've all been there before. You and I have literally the exact same story. I got married. I got divorced at 23. I was 30,000 in debt. I couldn't pay my credit card minimums because I had like literally nothing in my bank account. Like same thing. Met my husband right after, like my now husband, and it's great. I also was in like an emotionally very toxic situation. So I feel it, and that's wonderful. And I'm just so happy that you didn't let that define you. And you just, I'm not going to say bootstrapped, but you came back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I said, a year ago, I could not have told that story without like sobbing. So the fact that I can do it now, it's like, it's been practice, right? I think it's important to share because like so many people go through that stuff. And like you said, no judgment. I've been, in a pretty low spot and climbed out of it, and you can too.
And you can too. I absolutely love that. And also like therapy is amazing.
Yeah.
I'll just throw that in there too. Therapy's fantastic. So what does the future look like for you?
Yeah. So what does the future look like? I mean, long term, I'm interestingly, like I have my main business that is very successful. Love it. Not going to give it up anytime soon. But I have kind of decided to let it go a little bit. And what I mean by that is like, just let it happen the way and stop trying to force it. Because I've, for a long time, we've been doing like 50, 60K months in revenue. And I really want to get to like 80 to 100 this year. And instead of forcing it and trying to stress about it, I'm like, instead, I'm just going to step back and have some more fun with my life. A lot of this comes from the realization. My husband and I were sitting down a few months ago and we were like, we could walk away from our life now. We could like sell my business as one key component. We could have $1 million in cash in our pockets. Like, no, that's not enough to live the lifestyle that we have, but like it's enough to do a lot of things. And, it makes me sort of realize like, what am I doing now? And do I want to like keep doing some of the things that like drain my energy, or do I want to actually step back and have more fun? So that's what I'm trying to do because, I want to grow my business. I really, in 2024, it's my goal. Again, I'm trying to detach from all of these things, but like, I really want to buy other businesses. I really want like a laundromat or car wash or something like that, is the goal. Storage facilities, like something that's like boring. That's my goal for 2024. But like in the meantime, I'm trying to like not be in a rush to get there. And so instead, I'm doing the things that I want to do, which is part of the reason why I said, hey, I'm going to create a whole second coaching, mentoring business and, start helping women that way in terms of like make more money, save more money, right? Coming at it from the lens that I have, which is, a little bit different in a lot of cases than a lot of coaches out there. So that's what's next. Beyond that,
Awesome.
like I hope to be able to hire a CFO in my business. I hope to be able to do the things that I do, but I don't know what the timeline is on that.
Whenever you get to the point where you want to invest in something, definitely let us know because we got you. We
Yeah.
have some really cool deals that we're working on constantly.
Yes, I know you do. I know you do.
Yeah, we love it. Well, great. This was such a fantastic conversation. If someone's listening and they're feeling a little bit convicted about how they're running their business or their financial life, how could they get in contact with you?
Yeah. So, the best way is just go listen to my podcast. First and foremost, it is the Profit and Prosper podcast, and y'all will be on it in the next few months, sometime in summer 2023 too. So go and check that out. Me and my guests talk about business, money, all that fun stuff. So go check that out. I live on Instagram most of the time. I'm at It's Sarah Young. So go and find me on there and send me a DM and tell me you listen to this. I would love to chat.
And I will have all of that linked in the description as well.
Also, on a side note, do you also support people that invest in real estate full time? Do you specifically
Yeah, so
master in that?
we have in our agency business, we have a tax service. I call it the concierge tax package that is perfect for that type of person, who basically it's tax prep, but also the planning and strategy aspect. And so one of the things I found early on was like once a year tax prep just is not enough for most people. Who have businesses or who do things like have a real estate investing business, which I would call it a business if you have multiple properties. We have several clients who have multiple properties. And so we do that like tax planning piece to help think through like all of the different aspects that come with long-term investing, commercial real estate, flipping, all those things. Like we've seen pretty much all of it.
Okay, awesome. I'm glad to know because a lot of our listeners might be full-time real estate investors. So good to know that you can also help them.
Yeah. And especially like she said, even if you don't consider yourself to be a business owner, you still are running businesses, like they're little micro businesses, your rental properties and your Airbnbs and stuff, but it's still a business.
Yeah, with that real estate professional status that we always talk about too.
Oh my gosh. And it can be so complicated and confusing for people
Yeah.
at the time. We don't pretend to be experts at it. So that's really good to know that is something that you offer. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a lot of like, obviously the bulk of our clients are more traditional business owners. I'm using air quotes if you're not like watching the video, but many, many, many of them have lots of investments. And it's something that I really prioritize because I think it's really important to take, like I said, take that cash flow in your business, scale your business up so that is a wealth generation source for you, but then turn around and we didn't even talk about this, but what do you do with that, right? From a tax perspective and also like a wealth building perspective to keep growing your net worth. So all important things.
That is awesome.
Great. Thank you so much for coming on and for your time. Loved your story and all the information that you gave us. Really appreciate you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sarah. This was awesome.
Yeah, it was great to be here.
You had a lot in common with her, Rachel.
I know. It was
soul
kind of
sister?
weird. It was kind of weird. And we even
Yeah.
talked more a little bit offline about the similarities in our stories and our life. And
Yeah.
it is kind of
Parallel stories.
And then she said offline that she was going on a vacation to a place I'm going on vacation this summer. It was very like crazy.
So many coincidences.
So many coincidences. Is she obsessed with me? Is she just copying my life? No, I'm just kidding. I wish I could copy her life because she's got it going. Let me tell you what. That was an awesome episode.
It was. It was so good. So I hope y'all learned stuff. I know I did.
Yes. Oh my, like I said at the beginning of the episode, like I was so convicted by this episode to like bring sophistication to my business.
Also, I will just add that Profit First book that she referenced, it's been on my list and it was just like, it seems so complicated on like opening up all of those bank accounts. It is a book, right?
Yeah. Profit
Okay,
First,
yeah.
And she's not a fan.
And she wasn't a fan. So I was like, okay, if she has a more simplified version to carry this out, I am listening. And she sure did. So I loved it.
Yeah, no, she did, and I love that. I'm like, oh, I don't need to read another book, please.
And she also kind of highlighted that women and money, like, let's step it up, right? She mentioned something like about women and money, and we should know exactly where our money is going and
Yes.
how we're investing.
They're saying women just are typically, and this is not blanket statement, but typically just not assertive with their finances. They have resigned themselves to not being the decision makers.
Yeah.
But I'll say, like, in our business, a lot of the investors that we talk to are women.
Yep.
And so, listen, if you're women listening to this and you feel like, oh, I don't know anything about that, or I don't need to know anything about that, you do. Like, it's so empowering and awesome and not scary.
Yeah, and I will tell you this because I know some of my friends listen, which it excites me that they're also wanting to learn. But like, you're listening, maybe your husband isn't. So tell them about what you're learning.
Yeah.
Like, have those conversations. Because before, I was the only one that had time to actually learn about real estate and about investing. My husband has, a W-2 job.
Yep.
So he has like a steady paycheck. And when I started, I wanted to tell him all the things. Well, when I started doing that, he got real fired up and he wanted to start learning about it. So it's definitely a contagious thing, right? Everyone wants to achieve like this freedom of time and freedom, wealth freedom, and you can do that through real estate investing. But if one partner doesn't know about it, then you're probably not going to move the needle.
Yeah.
But if you both get on the same page, it'll be so good.
Yep, exactly. And also, he probably doesn't have as much time to look at deals and vet sponsors and all that you do. So being, if you find yourself in a situation like that where maybe your husband has steady income and you are running a business from home, that might be something that you could learn to do and to just grow your family's portfolio. Right?
Exactly. Or if you have a W-2, there is, I know there's a lot of women out there that have a 9 to 5 and they're feeling burnt out. They want to be there more for their kids, right?
Yes.
But they don't know if this is actually a way that they could leave their job and focus on this. You can, because that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, until next week. Listen, also, like I said, if you want to contact Sarah, listen to her podcast, that's all linked below. But we will catch you next week on Good Investing. Don't invest good.
Invest twice as good. Bye.